Hello there, and thank you so much for joining me today. You are in the right place if you want to hear about more about overcoming imposter syndrome and feeling more confident at work. I see there are many of you already popping on and joining, so say hello if you are joining live. Let me know where you are watching from and what your name is so I can shout you out. And if you are catching this on replay, type replay in the chat below. I already see we have Nagesa says ready to join. Thank you so much for being here. It's wonderful to have you. Perfect. Help your neighbors out as we go along. If you are hearing something that resonates with you or that's important, type it in the chat. I want this to be as interactive and as much of a conversation as possible. So, if we haven't met yet, I am Melody Wilding. I am a professor of human behavior, executive coach, and I'm the author of Trust Yourself, Stop Overthinking and Channel Your Emotions for Success at Work. I'm also the creator of a program called Resilient, a first of its kind comprehensive program to help sensitive high achievers regain their confidence, master their emotions, and reach your full potential at work. I call these people sensitive strivers. So these are professionals, maybe someone like you, who think and feel everything more deeply, who are more attuned to other people's emotions as well as their own. And that perceptiveness is a tremendous gift. It comes along with so many strengths. But if it's not managed and leveraged correctly, you don't have the right tools to channel it in the right ways, it can also leave you more susceptible to self doubt, overthinking, and imposter syndrome, which is what we're here to talk about today. So, as I said, as we're going along, say hello in the comments. Oh my gosh, so many of you here. Hello from Barcelona, Victoria, BC, Nebraska, NYC, my fellow NYCers here, Boston, Mass. Hello, everyone. I'm loving this. Great. Thank you. Keep those coming in and post any questions you have in the chat as well. And as I said, any important takeaways, I want to hear them. Okay. So today we are talking about imposter syndrome, and that refers to this phenomenon of feeling like a fake or a fraud despite your accomplishments. And that last point there is important because imposter syndrome disproportionately affects people who are high achievers, people who have many degrees, lots of training, who have great jobs and titles, who get good praise and positive performance reviews. But despite all of that, they still don't believe in their own capabilities. So, is that you? Is this something you have ever struggled with? Just go ahead and type yes in the chat here. Imposter syndrome is not just a simple lack of confidence or insecurity, though that is a part of it. A hallmark of imposter syndrome is there being a disconnect between your self perception and reality. So, in other words, there's a disconnect between how you view yourself and your capabilities and what's truth and fact in reality. So let me check in here with the chat and see how this is resonating with you. Hello to South Carolina, Montenegro, Baton Rouge. Yeah, I see a few of you are saying, yeah, that this is hitting home with you, is describing your experiences. Great. So, in other words, a big part of imposter syndrome is having trouble internalizing your successes. You're doing good things, but you might have difficulty recognizing your accomplishments. And more importantly, integrating those experiences into how you see yourself. It's like they just bounce off of you like Teflon. And you're not really integrating those things into a more constructive self concept. So, for example, I'm going to read a couple of statements. I want you to let me know how many of these you can relate to. So, number one, I can give the impression that I'm more competent than I really am. When I'm praised for something at work, I'm afraid I won't be able to live up to those expectations in the future. When I've succeeded at something and I've received recognition for my accomplishments, I have doubts that I can keep repeating that success. If I achieve recognition for something I've accomplished, I tend to discount the importance of what I've done. I tend to remember the incidents in which I haven't done my best more than the times I have. Sometimes I feel or believe that my success in my life or my job has been the result of some kind of fluke, error, or luck. And our last one, it's hard for me to accept compliments or praise about my intelligence or achievements. So, out of those 7, how many do you relate to? Let's see, I'm just checking over at the chat before. Perfect. So I'm seeing a lot of you in here that this is resonating with you. Perfect. So how many out of those 7 did you relate to? If you related to more than half of those, then I want you to listen up because overcoming imposter syndrome is possible. And it's possible to not have it paralyze you so much day in and day out. So a lot of you are saying 5, 6 of those. And Chelsea was saying, oh, cool. So we all feel like this. And this is incredibly common, right? Imposter syndrome is an incredibly common experience. What the research shows is that about over 70% of people experience it at some point in their careers. Over 50% of folks of all genders experience it on a daily or weekly basis. That's half of people. So just think about that. When you're sitting in a meeting, when you're on a call, half of those people are having these same thoughts. Yet, we don't talk about them. We experience them in isolation, which can make this so much worse because you feel like something's broken within you, that something's wrong within you. So, I want to give all of you tremendous kudos for being here to talk about this because when we bring this out into the open, it destigmatizes it less. It normalizes that this is an experience so many people have. So thank you all so much for being here and having the bravery to also talk about your experiences. Yeah. Okay. So Alex was saying, yeah, some of those really hit close to home. Perfect. Okay. So, like I said, overcoming imposter syndrome is possible, but it requires work on your part to retrain your brain. Think about it. Your brain has been responding to certain situations and challenges for the same way for probably years, if not decades. So, those paths in your brain are very well worn. They're like a record player that is on a very deep groove of a track. So, what we need to work on is almost manually picking up that needle and putting it on a different track. But at first, that takes effort. Over time, I promise you, it becomes more organic, automatic, natural. But at first, it does take a bit of effort. So, specifically, we need to begin to train ourselves to internalize our successes, to stop overriding and explaining away your achievements, and to instead take responsibility for them and learn to appreciate them. So let me be clear as I'm saying this, internalizing your success is not about becoming conceited. It is not about becoming big headed or a braggart, a blowhard. I want you to think about confidence here as on a spectrum. So, on one end of the spectrum, we have folks with imposter syndrome, perhaps you, folks who may have lower confidence but high competence. So, you don't believe in yourself, but you actually are smart. You do know things. On the other side of that extreme, on that spectrum, we have people with Dunning-Kruger syndrome. That's the opposite of imposter syndrome, where someone has extremely high confidence, but not a lot of competence. So I think we can all think of people, perhaps those in the public sphere, or maybe even people you work with, who seem very sure of themselves, but don't really have a lot of substance to back it up, right? So that's the opposite of imposter syndrome. So we have those two extremes. So, what it's all about is coming back to center, finding that healthy sense of confidence in the middle. People with healthy confidence are able to recognize both their strengths and their weaknesses. They're able to advocate for their own needs, but they're open minded and admit when they don't know everything or make mistakes. I'm sure if you think about the most confident person you know, that they're open minded, they are humble, right? So, I want to give you now 4 actionable ways you can begin to internalize your success and take back the reins, take steps to start overcoming imposter syndrome starting today. So, first is to shift your explanatory style. Someone write that for me in the chat here. Shift your explanatory style. Okay. Your explanatory style is how you make sense of the challenges you face and the things that happen to you. So, in other words, when something happens to you, what's the story you tell yourself about why that's happening? So, Dr. Martin Seligman, he's a positive psychologist, he has found that there are generally 2 types of explanatory styles: pessimistic and optimistic. Someone go ahead and take some notes for me in the chat. 2 explanatory styles: pessimistic, optimistic. Awesome. I love all my studious viewers here today. You all are amazing. Okay, so people with imposter syndrome tend to have a pessimistic explanatory style. Probably not a surprise. When something good happens to them, they tend to attribute it to external factors, to luck, timing, being in the right place at the right time. Am I right? As a result, they see their achievements as a one-off. You probably see yourself as a one-hit wonder. I got lucky that one time, or the situation was in my favor, but you see a situation as not indicative of your intelligence or capabilities. So, in other words, you see your success as temporary or fleeting. People with an optimistic style, on the other hand, tend to see good things that happen to them as the result of internal factors, their inherent capabilities, talent, smarts, character. They see good things as more stable and permanent. It's the difference between saying, I'm always great at data analysis versus saying, I don't know what happened that day. I must have been having a good day because it's really unlike me to do well at something like that. So, with some effort and practice, you can shift to an optimistic style. So, I want you all to challenge yourself this week. And perhaps you can even start by doing it here in the chat. I would love to hear from you. By reframing one situation you have faced. I want you to take one good thing that has happened to you at work and explain it through an optimistic lens versus a pessimistic lens. So go ahead, you can take a stab at it here in the chat. Reframe one good thing that happened to you at work, one achievement, milestone, win, something good that happened to you at work, and explain it through an optimistic lens. It being the result of internal factors, it being indicative of a longer term success, something that's more stable and permanent, rather than luck or timing, something that's fleeting. So I think once you start to practice this and even just start to build awareness for the stories you tell yourself, I think that you'll see why the research shows that people with an optimistic style tend to be happier, more motivated, and more productive. So let me check in on the chat here. So I hope I'm saying this correctly. Sheba said, I posted a successful Instagram reel and I can do it again. Fantastic. Love it. Love it. If anyone else wants to give it a shot, go ahead and put it in the chat. So our second tip to internalize your success is to accept compliments. I know this may sound very simple, accepting compliments, but it's remarkably difficult when you don't believe in yourself. When you have imposter syndrome, you don't allow yourself to take in praise or recognition that others give you. It like Teflon bounces off of you. So how many of you, and again, you can say me in the chat here, how many of you, when you get praise, you say, oh, it was nothing. That was no big deal. It was a team effort. You discount it, you minimize it. So your boss may say, oh, I was really impressed with how you handled yourself in that meeting today. And you may explain it away as nothing, or again, I was having a good day. Yeah. So help everyone out by taking some notes in the chat here. Second tip is to internalize your success is to accept compliments. And I want to hear from you. How many of you do that? Yeah, I'm seeing lots of me's. Yep, me, absolutely. You minimize, you undermine yourself, right? And sometimes this comes from a good place. We want to seem humble. We don't want to seem full of ourselves or big-headed. So we undermine, we minimize. But where this can get dangerous is it's a signal of that subconscious lack of belief in yourself. So this happens because when you have imposter syndrome, praise creates cognitive dissonance. So hearing about the good things that you're doing, hearing about your capabilities doesn't fit in to your current self-image. It doesn't fit into how you see yourself. So instead, you reject it because it doesn't match your current beliefs about yourself and the world. So you push it away. The flip side of that, though, is you may also tend to amplify or harp on your mistakes, your missteps, your weaknesses. So is any of this sounding familiar? Yeah. Yeah. And Jonatas was saying, I usually say it's my obligation, right? This wasn't my talent, but this is my obligation. It's something I have to do. Yeah. So the next time someone gives you a compliment, really simple stuff. I want you to receive it gracefully. And again, this may sound simple, but it's not necessarily easy. So I want you to say, thank you. I'm so glad you noticed. Or I appreciate hearing that. I worked hard on that. That's all. No over explaining, no verbal vomit, no throwing yourself under the bus. You can take this a step further by asking a question to get more information about your strengths. So, for example, thanks for that feedback. What did you enjoy most about the presentation? What stood out to you? So, take that a step deeper by asking an open ended question. I do an exercise when I teach in person workshops, which is much less frequently now, as you can imagine. But I have one partner give the other partner a genuine compliment. So, not your hair looks nice or I like your shoes, a genuine compliment about their talents, their character, their values, what they bring to the team. And all the other person, the person who's receiving the compliment, can say is, I receive and accept your compliment. I receive and accept your compliment. That's the only thing they can say. That's the only rule of this exercise. So, the point of this is to see what comes up for you when you get praise. When you can only say that one phrase, how uncomfortable is that for you? What goes through your head? What's your first urge? And many people find they do want to explain it away, or they want to reply by giving the other person a compliment because that would make them more comfortable. So you can try this exercise for yourself with your partner, let's say, or if you have a trusted coworker, and see for yourself, how do you respond? What comes up for you? So that's our second tip for internalizing your success, is to get better at accepting compliments. Okay. Our third tip is to create a brag file. So, how many of you have ever sat down to work on your performance review, or maybe, let's say, your LinkedIn profile, for example, and suddenly a wave of nausea comes over you? You're sitting there staring at the cursor or the blank screen, and you feel discouraged, demoralized, because in that moment, like many sensitive strivers, maybe you have struggled to think about anything good or notable or worthwhile you've done in recent history. All you can seem to recall is your weaknesses, the way you fail to measure up, or that you don't meet the qualifications for a certain job posting. I know I have been there. I know I have been staring at my LinkedIn thinking, accomplishments. What accomplishments have I done? Nothing feels like it's big enough to share. Or comparison. Well, there's other people doing so and so much bigger things. Why does this matter? Yeah. So you are here, all of you are here because you are likely people who are accomplishing amazing things every day. But you will never gain confidence from that if you simply just move on to the next thing and you don't pause to celebrate your wins. And this isn't frivolous. The act of internalizing your success actually changes your physiology and strengthens your psychology. So when you do this, your body releases endorphins, things like serotonin, that reinforce a feeling of competence, that you know what you're doing. So, one very simple way to do this is by creating a brag file. If the word brag doesn't work for you, you can call it a smile file or a wins folder, whatever works for you. The point is that this is a place where you document important successes you're achieving. Things like increasing revenue by 20%, or maybe it's pushing an important project over the finish line. Your brag file is a reference place to keep milestones that you've achieved. It can be also for kind words from customers, positive feedback from your boss, your colleagues. So, the great thing about your brag file is that it comes in really handy come performance review time or the next time you do need to sit down and work on your resume or LinkedIn. And it can give you really important data about what you do and don't enjoy in your work, which can help you make smart career decisions in the future. So your brag file, I know someone in the chat had said, I have a rainy day folder. And that's exactly the purpose of this too. You can whip this out anytime you're feeling down or inadequate. I do this all the time. Whenever I am having a bad day, I look at testimonials or emails from past coaching clients who talk about how our work together changed their lives. And I look at notes from readers who talk about how my book, Trust Yourself, made a huge impact on them. And I can't tell you just how quickly that brightens my mood and reminds me that the work I'm doing is meaningful. It makes a difference, even if I have moments where I don't believe it, or I have moments that are, and even seasons that are just tougher to get through. So that's our third tip, is creating your brag file. Today's final tip for internalizing your success is to develop a new definition of success. So, those of you who identify as being a sensitive striver, again, that's being a sensitive high achiever, someone who puts a lot of pressure on themselves to succeed, but also who thinks and feels everything deeply. For you, you probably have a very specific, narrow definition of what achievement is. And it's probably demanding the utmost excellence and perfection from yourself at all times. So I'm not asking you to lower your bar, but I do want you to broaden the scope of what qualifies as a win. Because the truth is that achieving whatever goal or desired outcome you have isn't always within your control. There's a lot of factors outside of that. So I want you to think about broadening your definition of success to include things like pushing through resistance or fear, taking a stand and speaking up for something you believe in, finding a creative approach to or changing your mindset or your attitude towards the situation, hitting one small milestone on the way to a larger goal, perhaps setting a boundary. So, where can you give yourself more credit for something hard you did this week? I want you to use Meta. I want you to use this situation right now here in the chat to give yourself more credit for something hard you did this week. Maybe, again, maybe it's a boundary you set, approaching a situation differently, a hard conversation you had to have, pushing through resistance or fear. I'm just keeping an eye on the chat here. So go ahead and share in the comments. Focusing on your strengths helps you increase your sense of resilience and resourcefulness. By noting the hard things you have done and that you're overcome, you're proving to yourself that you have what it takes to handle challenges that are thrown at you, that you are not weak, that you are not broken. Okay. So there you have it. Those are our 4 ways to overcome imposter syndrome by internalizing your success. I'll go through those one more time. Number 1 is to shift your explanatory style from pessimistic to optimistic. Number 2 is to practice accepting compliments. Number 3 is to start your brag file. And 4 is to expand your definition of success. So I see some of you are having those wins rolling into the comments here. That's wonderful. If this resonated with you today, then I want to invite you to check out my program, Resilient. This is specifically designed to help you regain your confidence, master your emotions, and reach your full potential at work. I want you to imagine just how much further you could go without imposter syndrome, perfectionism, burnout, people pleasing, without all of those things holding you back. And to imagine how much more fulfilled, productive, and effective you could be if you got out of your own way. And Resilient can help you do just that. So, inside, you will discover proven strategies to trust yourself and to use your sensitivity to fuel your success instead of self sabotage. And I'm really excited because in just a few weeks, I will be unveiling a fully revamped and extended version of the program, and I can't wait to share it with you. I have spent over a year and hundreds of hours making this program the most valuable and the only program on the market to help sensitive high achievers like you achieve the calm and inner peace you deserve. So the link is on the screen. I will make sure that is also in the chat as well. But head on over to melodywilding.com/resilient to get on the wait list now, because you will get first access and some special bonuses. So let's see, I'm going to check in on the chat quickly. Okay, let's see. I want to celebrate a few of you here. If you have any questions, go ahead and put them in the chat now. And I want to shout out some of your wins this week. So Adriana was saying, I started a new job. After 4 years, I'm in an extremely toxic and harassing environment. That takes tremendous courage and strength. So congratulations to you for that new beginning. Casimiro is saying, starting my own business when everyone else said I was crazy. It's hard. It's hard to go against the grain. And as someone who runs their own business, I wish you much luck and lots of success. That's fantastic. Good for you for following your heart with that. Kaylon is saying, I reached out to other administrative professionals as a follow-up to an event we attended. It can be so scary to put yourself out there and to overcome some of that self-talk and chatter around, oh, I'm bothering people. People don't want to hear from me. So bravo if you had to overcome any of those mindset hurdles. Sheba was saying, I chose to hold the discomfort that comes with boundaries and FOMO. Good for you. That's so difficult not to cave to that people pleasing and saying yes. Denise, I completed a webinar to learn about a new career path. Congratulations. And I know we are also going live today on LinkedIn Learning. And I know LinkedIn Learning has recently introduced some wonderful resources for those of you who are interested in switching career paths. So make sure you check those out. Okay, let's see. I just want to see if there's any questions here. I'm not sure. All I can see is LinkedIn user, but said this was so helpful and timely. Thank you so much. Perfect. Thank you. So I think it's DD was asking, do you have any data on attendance? I don't have any data on attendance, but DD, you also asked about, let me find that comment here. HSPs and the highly sensitive people, which I was speaking about sensitivity, and the breakdown between male and female. So this is a really common question. And a common misconception is that highly sensitive people, let me back up and share that high sensitivity is not a character flaw, it's not a weakness, it's a very real genetic trait. It points to the fact that about 15 to 20% of the population has a different genetic makeup that leads them to process the world more deeply than other people around them. And there's a very real biological basis for this. People with higher sensitivity have more active brain areas in certain areas related to decision making, self awareness, and specifically brain areas related to perceiving and understanding other people's emotions. So the breakdown between male and female, because it is a genetic trait, is largely equal. That's what the research has shown. But a common misconception is that women are more sensitive than men. And for women, unfortunately, that bias can lead to a lot of comments like, you're being overly emotional. Why are you so reactive to anything? Well, on the flip side, for men, unfortunately, again, that bias can lead to men feeling uncomfortable expressing their emotions or their sensitivity. So I hope that's helpful and answers your question there. So Alana was saying, I love this. I am starting to trust myself to lean into my power and starting my own business as well. I'm so inspired by everyone here. Perfect. Glad to hear it. Okay, I think that is a perfect place to end today. If you are joining on replay, make sure you say hello in the chat and let us know what is resonating with you the most. I really enjoyed my time with all of you today. Thank you so much for being here. Take care, and I'll see you soon.